Viewer contributions make local programming possible on WNIN. Become a member of WNIN with your contribution so we can continue to make this programming available. Visit WNIN.org and click on the donate button.
It's the Friday wrap on WNIN FM. I'm John Gibson. Good to have you along on this Friday. The former YMCA gymnasium in downtown Evansville could face the wrecking ball if a developer does not take over the property. The nearly century-old red brick building at Court and 6th Streets originally served as the old Central High School gymnasium. USI, then ISUE, played basketball there in the 1970s. Joining me now is Tom Langhorn of the Evansville Courier and Press. He's been covering the potential future of the gym. Tom, good to have you with us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for joining us. Wonderful. Well, let's talk a little bit about the stories you've been writing regarding the old gymnasium. Who currently owns the old gym?
It's owned by a statewide nonprofit historic preservation group, Indiana Landmarks. Mm-hmm. And the Y conveyed the property title to Landmarks in fall of 2023 for 2 years, and that's since been extended to 3. So right now, Landmarks is working to convey it to a developer.
Yeah. As you say, it was a 2-year situation, which would have meant time would be running out about this time of year, mm-hmm. But it looks like there's at least another year in that agreement, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Now, the YMCA moved into a new building across Court Street in 2019. And some of the Y's old building, which is adjacent to the gymnasium, has been developed into apartments. Is that the kind of project that officials are looking for in the old gymnasium?
They are looking at, at this point, what I know is they're looking at housing units, mm-hmm. Possibly affordable housing units. And there actually is a developer that for some time there's been a prospective in-state developer that mm-hmm. seeks out vacant historical buildings. It's AP Development LLC in Brownsburg. Okay. And they envision converting this building in housing units without demolishing it. And right now, money is the holdup. According to Landmarks, AP Development's financing includes millions of dollars that are controlled and held by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. But people are waiting now for that agency called IEDC to make mm-hmm. an announcement about what projects are going to go forward.
Yeah. Yes, so, state funding, as we were discussing before we went on the air, state funding is quite the issue these days.
Yes. Yeah, and so according to Landmarks, IEDC had already approved the project and moved forward, but money hasn't been awarded yet, and so the developer is in limbo.
Yeah. You mentioned, there is an interested developer. The holdup was, in one word, I guess, money. Mm-hmm. I understand there are also some tax issues that the developer would face.
Well, Landmarks had tried to get a charitable use tax exemption for the property, mm-hmm. and had failed, and of course the Y wasn't paying property taxes because it's nonprofit, but so what happened is Landmarks tried for a charitable use tax exemption, and it was denied, and then they appealed it to the Property Tax Assessment Board of Appeals, and have so far lost. And they're talking about appealing it to the state tax court, and mm-hmm. we'll see how long that takes. But that would be almost $59,000 in taxes this year, and a similar amount the following year that they would be on the hook for.
I see.
So those taxes are not going to go away.
Right. Is there any hope that the Indiana Landmarks could still get that designation that would remove the taxes?
Well, they would have to win at the state tax court, mm-hmm. and I mean they have said that they can't pay that. They've said publicly they've said that that would deplete their resources and this is a quote, probably put us back into the position of turning it back over to the YMCA for it to be demolished. So they obviously hope that the money, the financing that they hope for from the state and their developer will come through so that they don't have to, get to that point.
Yeah. This is the Friday Wrap on WNIN FM. I'm John Gibson. Our guest is Tom Langhorne of the Evansville Courier and Press. He's been covering the potential future of the old YMCA gymnasium in downtown Evansville. As we mentioned, it could face the wrecking ball if some of these developments do not come to pass. I understand, Tom, reading your story, that you also looked into what it would cost to demolish the gymnasium, and it's a pretty big price tag, right?
Right. The building is about 60,000 square feet. It's would be a large-scale demolition. The YMCA says they've never committed to doing that. They want to work with Landmarks. But I talked with Tim Klink, who is president of the Evansville-based demolition contractor, Klink Company. And he told me they, for years, have produced estimates for demolition of the building at the request of the city and people who wanted to do something with the building. And this company specializes in large explosive demolitions. They tore down Roberts Stadium. They've demolished 3,500-foot bridges over water, 14-story buildings, and other large buildings in Evansville. So they've been asked, what would it cost? Not out of anybody's serious intent to demolish it, according to Klink, but just to, as part of vetting for theoretical development deals. Money's gone up, the cost has gone up with the cost of inflation, but when you get down to the bottom line, Klink told me to take the whole thing down would cost upward of about $750,000.
Yeah, $750,000.
Yeah.
That is a rather large price tag. Now, you mentioned the city of Evansville. In the past, the city has asked about demolition estimates. Is the city involved in this situation at all right now?
No. The Joe Atkinson, spokesman for the mayor, told me the city's playing no role in this current situation. They're not involved, not at this moment.
Yeah. We're talking about the old YMCA gymnasium here in downtown Evansville. So what is the deadline? I think we talked about it a little bit. Is there a deadline for when the building would go back to the Y from Indiana Landmarks? Well,
it's the arrangement that Landmarks has with the Y was recently extended a third year, and that would take it to the fall of next year. And so in the meantime, we don't know how quickly the state tax appeals court would rule. So there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered. Obviously, Landmarks told me that, they're hopeful that the state money could be forthcoming as early as this month. They told me everybody's moving forward as if the project will happen. So there are a lot of questions yet to be answered. But you could, theoretically, that arrangement could, if nothing happens and money doesn't come through, there's not a developer, the arrangement could go all the way through the fall of 2026.
Yeah. And would an extension be possible then, or does that look to be a pretty firm deadline?
I don't know whether, I don't know whether Landmarks, I think a lot of it would depend on what happens with the tax situation. Landmarks is plain in saying they cannot pay that.
Yeah. And you mentioned this state funding. They're hoping that could be happening pretty soon.
They hope it could come this month.
Yeah,
That's what they say.
Yeah. All right. Well, as you say, many things to watch for, and I know you will continue to cover it for the Evansville Courier and Press. Tom, anything to add that we haven't touched on here?
No. There are a lot of people who are interested in this property. A lot of people who've been in Evansville for a long time have memories with it. A lot of people are watching.
Yeah. as we mentioned, yes, it's nearly a century-old red brick building at Court and 6th Streets. It originally served as the old Central High School gymnasium. There were some times when USI, which was then ISUE, played basketball there. That was back in the 1970s. But as you say, now that the Y has moved across the street into a new facility, the old gymnasium is sitting there and not getting any younger. Well, Tom, as always, thank you so much for joining us on the Friday Wrap. That is Tom Langhorne of the Evansville Courier and Press. You can see his stories at courierpress.com. And as always, Tom, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It's the Friday Wrap on WNIN FM. I'm John Gibson. Good to have you along on this Friday. Well, the Evansville Museum, the Evansville Wartime Museum, and the LST 325 Memorial are collaborating on a new interactive project. As WNIN's Tim Jagielo told us this week, the goal is to bring local World War II history to life for anyone with access to a computer.
It's true that there have been documentaries about the Evansville war effort, and individuals can tour these immersive museums. But this is the first time this will all be able to be learned online thanks to a national grant. Chris Donahue with the LST 325 says they'll be documenting World War II spots that not everyone is familiar with.
And some of these places don't exist anymore. The USO, the Evansville Canteen was known nationally by soldiers and sailors that came through here. The Hoosier hospitality they got. The LST bar on Franklin, which is something else now, I don't know, but there'll be pictures of these. There'll be a story.
For the next year, Evansville's historic contribution to the World War II effort will be documented. The final product, a free interactive website. Donahue says the project will bring the city's history to anyone, anywhere.
Anybody and everybody at any hour of the day, you're sitting at your computer. You can be sitting on the other side of the world and take this tour digitally. Beforehand, you had 50 people on a bus maybe taking a tour of Evansville. You pay your $20.
Savannah Summerfield, a history graduate of the University of Evansville and a graduate student of World War II studies at Arizona State University, will work with these groups to identify and document the sites. Evansville is the Indiana State World War II Heritage City. For WNIN News, I'm Tim Jagielo.
And Tim Jagielo joins us now on the Friday Wrap. Tim, as always, thanks for coming in.
No problem.
Good to have you here. Well, you mentioned that Evansville is a World War II heritage city. Basically, what is that and why is it important?
Well, it's important because there's 38 of these cities across the country, and these are cities selected in part by the National Park Service for having exceptional contributions to the World War II effort.
I see.
And as a transplant to this area, I know far less about Evansville's World War II contribution. There are people out there who have written entire books on it, right?
Oh, yes, indeed.
But basically, so this is my preface for when I talk about this, but this is the only reason why the city or the institutions in the city could apply for the grant. It was only open to these heritage cities, so that's the first thing why it's important. And the other thing is because there simply is so much to catalog and document here. There are 80 factories in town that were retooled for the war effort. A Chrysler plant switched to making ammunition. I think 96% of .45 caliber ammunition came out of Evansville.
Yeah, it was a ton, and the Chrysler plant at that time was switched over for the war effort. Yeah,
there's of course it was actually called the Missouri Valley Bridge and Iron Company, which was, I think that's where the LSTs were built, 167 of them. So the list goes on and on and on and on of all the places that could be documented for this.
Yeah, and as you say, it'll be online. How will this project be funded?
It's a $10,000 grant, and most of that goes to Savannah Summerfield's salary, and with help from these organizations. So the money is from the National World War II Museum in New Orleans. It's in partnership with the National Park Service, and and technically the project is called the World War II Evansville, Indiana, 80 years later, a look at wartime. That's the project. Again, the funds were available to be applied to in grant form because of the status as a heritage city.
Yes, of course, the 80th anniversary is getting recognition all over the world, of course. But what's the timeline for this local project?
A year. They have a year to document this, and considering how much there is to see, it's going to be a busy year for Savannah Summerfield and whoever she gets to work with.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. Well, Tim, don't go anywhere. We've got another story from you from this past week, and that is about another historic building in Evansville, Mesker Park Amphitheater. These days, it's weed-choked with rotting pavilions and graffiti-scrawled walls. But one individual has a proposal to revitalize the West Side venue. WNIN's Tim Jagielo filed this story earlier this week.
The City of Evansville Park Board received one proposal to rehabilitate and operate the Mesker Park Amphitheater. An individual named Tim Drake, who runs the Mill Amphitheater in Terre Haute, submitted the sole proposal. City Parks Executive Director Danielle Kirk says she's not surprised they only received one proposal to lease the amphitheater.
I think somebody that has experience running in a similar venue, it makes sense to me. I don't know how many people were out there that felt like they could take that on. It's a huge undertaking, but overall we just want to see what this leads to, if anything.
This venue has been unused since 2012. The City of Evansville Parks Board issued a request for proposal this summer to rehabilitate, revive, and utilize the 70-plus-year-old facility. The goal is to partner with someone with experience with such a project and not use taxpayer funds.
I know that the community is really passionate about it, and the community would like to see it back again. We want to make sure that it can be done safely. We want to make sure that if it's something that is offered to the community, that there's high expectations there. People have a lot of great memories of the amphitheaters.
There are still many steps for such a bid being accepted and then executed. No details of the proposal were released, but it was required to detail capital improvements along with concessions and revenue sharing with the city. For WNIN News, I'm Tim Jagielo.
And Tim is still with us here in the studio. Well, I'm sure a lot of folks are listening to this, Tim. And the first thing they're wondering, will this really happen? How likely is this to happen? I think we picked up a little bit of, skepticism there from the parks director at this point.
I think everybody's happy that there was a proposal, but of course, with these big projects, it's just the variables are just endless. And when I was looking, I'd never been to the facility except for to take some pictures finally, and it looks rough, of course.
Yeah, lots of work to be done.
Yeah, and I don't even know actually how much. Another question people might have is like, well, what would it cost to get it fixed up? And Danielle couldn't give me any kind of recent accurate estimate as to what it could cost to fix it up, and that could be part of the proposal. But again, there's a lot of changes that could happen. They can reject the proposal, they can accept it as it is, or they can negotiate changes.
Sure.
And that's basically where they're at right now, is just exploring the proposal. There's going to be tons of conversations, I'm sure, between the parks and the city and Mr. Drake.
Yeah. Now, speaking of Mr. Drake, can you share some more about this other venue that he operates up in Terre Haute, correct?
Yes. Well, ZZ Top is coming. And Alabama was just there. But they've also got community events like Touch a Truck. But anyway, it's a 65-acre property. It's a former distillery. And, it was actually I think it was based on just the About page. It looked like it was developed by Tim Drake as a grassroots home effort with his family to turn it into what it is now. So that's not a bad start considering Evansville's challenge here. Right. They have about a 6,000 capacity seating, maybe more. I think they had to drop due to COVID. Maybe they're up to more now. So it might be about the same amount of seating between the two venues, which is, I guess, a good equivalency. Based on what I've seen online, it looks like a pretty vibrant venue. Pretty active social media site, nice packed. Obviously they're going to turn the camera toward the crowd, not the empty seats, but It looked like an active community that uses it. And the other encouraging thing about the page, which not to read too much into it, is that clearly they have an eye on developing their own facility. Like, what are the next stages? How does this facility contribute to the local community when it comes to bringing in money? So it doesn't feel like a static kind of business out there in Terre Haute.
Yeah. Well, now Drake's proposal, the details aren't available yet. We have not seen all the details. So can you share more on what the city was requesting in this request for proposals?
They sent the RFP out in July. I believe it was late July. And, I outlined some of the things that they're looking for. But, of course, rehabilitate, revive, utilize are very important. It's the city's now owns the park, and it's managed by the Department of Parks and Rec. They would like to work with a nonprofit or a for-profit organization in lieu of, and this is where I want to correct myself, in lieu of or as a supplement to taxpayer funding. So there could still be some taxpayer dollars used in this project, but they're definitely looking at partnering. They want a community-minded idea for this to use all of it or a portion of the facility. So it may not be the entire facility. They want details on concessions. They want to know about what they call it. Pouring rights, whether it's soda and alcohol, local beverage suppliers.
Sure.
They want a plan for capital improvements. They want a detailed plan for scheduling events and performances and alternate performances. They want to know what the operator's approach would be to the leasing the facility. They want financial statements. It sounds like a very complicated project just to get them all this information.
Sure.
What's the maintenance plan? What's the merchandising plan? There's a lot of stuff in there, including things that are kind of unique to this spot, which is you have to be able to work with Mesker Park Zoo.
Which is right next door, yes.
Animals right next door, venue with concerts. So they have to consider the nearby inhabitants, if you will. And
I believe a sound barrier might be part of that plan, right? A wall to keep the sound from disturbing the animals.
Well, I mean, it was an amphitheater while it was a zoo previously. I see. Did you ever get to go to any shows there?
Well, sure. I attended several shows there, and back then perhaps there wasn't as much concern about the noise that was being heard in the adjacent zoo. I know neighbors obviously also dealt with a lot of sound from events there. But yeah, these days, as I understand it anyway, the zoo would undoubtedly want a barrier there to help reduce, the noise overflow, if you will.
That would make sense. And it seems like nowadays, and I'm gonna sound like I'm old, but it's concerts are too dang loud, John. I feel like they're louder, and I feel like the equipment is more powerful and there's more bass. So I don't know, or maybe they just have to factor that in there. But we'll see. And then again, it looked like a fun venue, but I can see why it needs so much improvement as well.
Yeah, lots of work to do there if it's to happen. Well, Tim, anything else to add that we haven't touched on here? I
actually would plug stories that are coming up. Because there are two stories, and we talked about this, that I wanted to do this week that I ran out of time to do. And they're both, I think, pretty interesting. One is, the whole discussion with our utility rates and the effort to bring grassroots community effort into that equation with the lights out events at our academy. And also now we've got movement on that with Governor Braun kind of stepping into the fray. What does that even mean? So there's a story on that. And also regarding the LST 325, they just shipped off for their annual voyage, their fundraising voyage. So I was there for that. I got to hear them fire up the engines and stuff like that. So those two stories are coming. One of them hopefully maybe over this weekend, and the other one next week.
There you go. Things to look forward to as Tim will stay busy. That is WNIN's Tim Jagielo. As always, Tim, thank you so much.
Of course.
It's the Friday Wrap on WNIN FM. I'm John Gibson. Thank you for joining us on this Friday. Shelley Kirk is 1 week into her retirement. After more than 35 years on the air at WEHT TV, Kirk delivered her final newscast behind the anchor desk last week. Yesterday, she stopped by the WNIN studios and sat down with our Kenton McDonald to talk about her career in journalism and her very close ties to the Tri-State.
Here.
You're from here?
Yes.
Where'd you go to high school?
Born in St. Mary's Hospital way back when. I went to high school, Jess, at Harrison High School.
Okay.
Went to Purdue University. Went to Plaza Park back at the time. It was a grade school. And so right here.
Did you always want to work in television, journalism, be on TV? When did that bug first hit you? When did you first know?
When I went to Purdue, when I started school there, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And back then, going through high school, I have older siblings, and you just go to college. It was not really that much of a question at the time. So I knew I wanted to go to college. I just didn't know what I wanted to study. Once I got there, though, I started realizing this is sort of what I wanted to do. And I don't even really know exactly what it is that really pushed me into that, other than the fact that, Purdue is really strong in science and a lot of that kind of more analytical fields and stuff. And I knew that was not my forte and that this type of thing was. So I guess that's kind of what drove me in this direction.
Was the Evansville market your first job out of college?
Well, I had a lot of other jobs. I kind of moved around a little bit right after I graduated, and I did a little short stint in a PR company, and I waited some tables, and I did a lot of different stuff. But my first real broadcasting job, other than an internship, yes, was at WEHT. My entire career, really, in broadcasting has been at WEHT.
Who were some of the people locally, maybe growing up watching WEHT, but also on the national level, that you saw as maybe an icon or somebody that you would kind of emulate their style or say, I want to take what that person does and make it my own?
Well, growing up, honestly, I wasn't one of those younger kids that really followed the news and was really into it. I was a pretty happy-go-lucky kid and kind of did my own thing. But once this is what I really realized what I wanted to do, I started paying a lot more attention. And, of course, Diane Sawyer, Cokie Roberts, huge influence. She, to this day, is simply amazing. Mary Louise Kelly, still to this day. And I guess I usually gravitate toward women because I just obviously feel more for that. But those are some of the three that I can think of right off the top of my head. And I will also tell you that our local newscasters have been a strong influence in me as well, because I feel like I learned on the job so much, and I was so lucky to have been put in the seat next to Brad Bird all these years, because you can't sit next to Brad and not learn something. So I would put Brad right up there too.
What are some of your favorite stories you covered in your career, or what types of stories did you really enjoy covering the most?
Oh my goodness. The stories that I loved covering it was often the ones where I didn't even realize when I was getting ready to go out on them that they would have such an impact on me. And those were everyday people that ended up doing extraordinary things. And I'm sure most folks in the tri-state know that I had a battle with breast cancer. So over my career, I've had so many interviews with women who've battled breast cancer or other types of cancer as well. And some of those were even before I was diagnosed. So I remember when I was diagnosed, looking back on those women and men that I've talked to in the past that faced that same battle and how it affected me and how I got strength from that and learned from that to get through my own personal battle. So first and foremost, I think that those were probably the most significant stories I ever did. And unbeknownst to me at the time, they turned out to be the most important. But other than that, I will tell you the most fun story I ever did was I reported in Washington, D.C. from the Supreme Court. And then that same trip, I actually was in the Oval Office of the White House for a report. So those two are kind of hard to top. Those were pretty great. But there are a lot of local stories that were great. The Habitat building blitz was amazing. Back in, I can't even remember the year that was, but it was quite a while ago, where they took a whole week and they built 20 homes the first time. The second time, I think it was 25. Those were just remarkable endeavors that we did. I'm so proud of those too. And gosh, I could just keep going all day about the great stories that I covered. And there were some really poignant and difficult ones too that left a mark as well.
Was there ever a compliment that you got that stuck with you the most? What's the greatest compliment you ever received from somebody about how you touched their lives, or a story you did that affected them? Because the story's not about you.
No.
But, the stories that you're doing affect people. And was there ever a compliment that you received that really made you really appreciate the work that you did? What
you just said is so true, that every single story, whether it be just what we call a VO bite in the business, which isn't like a full-blown story that a reporter does, but even just a shorter story that the anchor reads, every story we do really affects people. And I think that's imperative, that reporters nowadays understand that. No matter what they do, it affects people out there. So I get that, and I appreciate that you said that. And the best compliment, I mean, anytime anyone tells me that something I did helped them through maybe a difficult time, that meant the world. I've had some wonderful comments lately from some folks that have told me some nice things since I announced my retirement, which I so appreciate so much. But my cousin's son actually just recently sent me a little message, a text that said that sometimes when I would be on air, I would remind him of my uncle, who I dearly love. And that's probably the greatest compliment I could ever get, because my uncle was a phenomenal man. My dad and my uncle were great. So that's very personal, but that meant a lot to me.
We spoke on the phone last night, and it was about 5:45, and you said you just gotten out of your garden from doing some work. What are going to be some of the things that you most look forward to in your retirement? Having your evenings back, per se, or maybe in working your garden a little bit more?
Stuff like that. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I let so many things go because, the new schedule, when they need you, you're there. And especially the evening news schedule, the morning is very tough too. I did that for a while, but the evening, you're gone in the evenings. You don't get as much done around the house. So I've got a ton of projects around the house that I'm going to be doing. My yard is a jungle. Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody knows this, but I broke my leg in May. So I've been down and out with that too. Oh, wow. Right. I'm recovered now. I'm all fine. I walked in here without a cast or a boot or a brace, and that's amazing that I'm at that point now. So I'm itching to get out in my yard like I was yesterday and actually do a little gardening out there. It's wonderful. Yeah.
What can we expect to see you maybe doing around town when you're free time?
Gosh.
Any causes or any things that you were going to be taking up that you're really passionate about?
Oh, there's, a ton. That's one great thing about this job. I have learned so much about the organizations in town that do so much good for folks. So, I'm ready to get out there and help with those types of things as I can. Easter seals is always a great love of mine, having learned about all they do to uplift people in our community. So yeah, I'm sure you'll see me around. Right now, I don't have a definite plan, Ken. I'm just ready to, experience it. And I do want to take a little bit of time, take a breath, because as you said, I haven't had a whole lot of time at home in the evening, and it is a consuming profession. I loved every minute of it, but it is pretty all-consuming. So I'm ready to take a breather and just really enjoy myself for a while.
All right. Shelley, Kirk, thanks for chatting with me today. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to talk with you.
That was WNIN's Kenton McDonald speaking with the now retired Eyewitness News anchor Shelley Kirk. You can listen to the entire interview with Shelley online at WNIN.org. It's the Friday Wrap on WNIN FM. I'm John Gibson. Good to have you along on this Friday. And joining me now is Jevin Redmond with this week's Sports Chat. Good to see you, Jevin.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Thanks for coming in. All right, well, let's start with tonight. It's week 3 of the high school football season, right?
It is, and in the SIAC, there's only 2 teams already that are only undefeated through 2 weeks of play, which doesn't happen too many years, but Wrights and Memorial, the only 2 teams that have not lost. And just some highlights from week 2, which was last week. There were a couple of very good games in the city. Castle hung on for a 3-point win against Mater Dei, 31-28, so that was a good bounce back for Castle after losing week 1 against North. And then a little bit surprising, the game was as close as it was, but Wrights beat Vincennes at home 35-28. The game was tied with just under 3 minutes to go, and Wrights freshman Amir Wilford returned the kickoff back for a touchdown, put Wrights up by 7, and they hung on to win 35-28. And Memorial improved to 2-0 as they shut out North 21-0 at home. So that sets up week 3 throughout the city. You have Mater Dei at home against Vincennes. Wrights is at Jasper. In my opinion, those are the 2 best games this week. The other 3 contests, Memorial at Central, North welcomes Harrison, and Castle is at Boise. Should be another beautiful night for high school football. A couple good games throughout the city, so looking forward to it tonight. night. And then also just staying in the football conversation, last week was the first big week of college football. Well, this week it is week 1 for the National Football League.
Yes, indeed.
They actually got underway last night with the Cowboys and the Eagles. The Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champ, beat the Cowboys 24-20. And then on Sunday, the Colts open up at home against the Dolphins at 12 noon. You had the Cincinnati Bengals at the Cleveland Browns also at 12 o'clock. The Tennessee Titans play the Denver Broncos. Green Bay Packers at the Detroit Lions, and the Chicago Bears. They're on Monday Night Football this week, John, taking on the Minnesota Vikings at home.
There you go. Lots of football going on right now. Let's talk a little bit about college sports. We've got soccer, we've got volleyball, all kinds of stuff going on, right?
Yeah, it was a big week for both local volleyball teams. Michigan State was in town. They first took on the University of Evansville on Wednesday. The Purple Aces competed very well. They did lose in 4 sets, had a sellout crowd inside of Meeks Family Fieldhouse. Almost 900 fans were in attendance for that game. Then at USI last night, Michigan State swept the Scream Eagles in straight sets, but USI Volleyball did set an attendance record in that game. Just over 1,200 fans were there to watch that. So despite the losses for the Aces and the Eagles, it was an exciting match against the Big Ten team of Michigan State. Also in soccer, Evansville women's soccer, they're off to a great start. They've now won 3 straight, John. They beat Austin Peay on the road last night 1-0. They're off to a 4-1 start. And then USI women's soccer, we talked last week, they were still in search of their first win. Well, they've now won back-to-back matches. They beat Valparaiso last night 2-0, and they're now 2-5 on the season. So women's soccer on both sides of town starting to play pretty well.
Yes, indeed. Well, let's talk about the baseball season. It's on the home stretch here. How are the pennant races looking?
Yeah, we'll start with the Chicago Cubs with a little less than a month left now in the season. They're 5.5 games out of first place in the National League Central Division behind the Milwaukee Brewers, but they're in good position for a playoff spot. They have a 9-game cushion for a playoff position, and right now they are the top wildcard team. They have a 4-game lead for that spot, and they're about to begin a 3-game series at home against the Nationals. First pitch here in about 30 minutes at 1:20. You had the Cincinnati Reds. They have an enormous series this weekend against New York Mets at home. The Reds are 5 games back of the Mets for a wild card spot, so they have to make up some ground this weekend. And then the Cardinals, they're 5.5 games out of the playoffs right now. They open up a 3-game series against the Giants this weekend. First pitch is tonight at 7:15. And one more note about baseball. The Evansville Otters saw their season come to an end last weekend at the Gateway Grizzlies. Right. Otters were pretty well out of playoff contention the entire second half of the season. They did finish the season strong with some more wins, but, John, they finished 40-56 overall, which was last in the Midwest Conference Central Division. So the Otters hoping to bounce back next year.
Yes, hopefully the Otters will have some better fortune next season. I will point out in Big League Baseball last night, the Chicago White Sox topped Minnesota 11-8, and former Southridge star Colson Montgomery had another home run. The Sox at this point, in case anyone is wondering, at this point the goal is to not lose 100 games. They have to play just right around 500 at this point the rest of the way, and they will avoid a 100-loss season.
Well, I don't have the record off the top of my head since the All-Star break, but they played quite a bit better in the second half. They got some of their young talent, and Colson Montgomery is one of those. And he's up to 17 home runs now. And that's just since the All-Star break or the 4th of July, kind of around that time frame. But, yeah, things are looking better for the White Sox than maybe it was this time last year.
Yes, indeed. Well, speaking of things not looking so good, Indiana Fever fans got the news they didn't want to get, right?
Yeah, so it's been a theme this year, injuries for the Fever, and yesterday Caitlin Clark came out and said she's been ruled out for the rest of the season. She's only played in 13 games this year. She's been sidelined since July 15th with a right groin injury. Really an amazing stat, I guess it's a stat, but the 5th player for the Fever that had been ruled out for the rest of the season in the past month. I mean, that's remarkable for really a couple season stretch, let alone just 1 month. But the Fever are still fighting for a playoff spot. They have 3 games left. They're home against the Chicago Sky tonight at 6:30. The Fever are 21-20 overall. They have a 1.5 game lead on the Los Angeles Sparks for that final playoff spot. Fever have 3 games left. The Sparks have 4 games left, and the magic number for a playoff spot is 3 for the Fever. So a combination of Indiana wins or LA losses during this final stretch has to amount to 3 for them to make the playoffs.
So even with all those injuries, they still have a playoff shot.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes, indeed. All right, that is Jevin Redmond for this week's Sports Chat. As always, Jevin, thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thanks, John.
Time now for the Weekend Notebook. Well, continuing tonight, it's Wild Summer Lights at the Zoo. This colorful event continues from 5 to 9 tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday at Mesker Park Zoo and Botanic Garden. Tickets are $18 for non-member adults and $16 for non-member kids. Members save $3 on each ticket. Tickets for Wild Summer Lights are available only online at meskerparkzoo.com. Also happening tonight, it's the first Friday at Haney's Corner. This monthly event features artists, vendors, food trucks, live music, and more from 5:30 to 9 p.m. in and around Haney's Corner. And speaking of live music, you can catch our own Peggy Pirro and yours truly performing as Gibson and Pirro in front of Patchwork Central on Washington Avenue. Also, First Friday at First Pres. Organist and harpsichordist Gian Kim Newland will perform at First Presbyterian Church at 2nd and Mulberry Streets in downtown Evansville beginning at 7 tonight. Also happening this evening, staged readings at Stage 2. The theater on Congress Avenue will host staged readings from its summer playwriting workshop. The readings are tonight and tomorrow with a different slate of plays each night. Admission is $10 for one night or $15 for both nights at Stage 2. Moving on to tomorrow now, Saturday, it's the Fall Fitness Fair at Wesselman Woods. The community is invited to this free event celebrating health, fitness, and wellness opportunities here in Evansville. The fair brings together local fitness organizations, businesses, and professionals. The Fall Fitness Fair is from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Wesselman Woods tomorrow. Also happening on Saturday, it's the Pickle Fest at Main Street Food and Beverage. This family-friendly event includes vendors, live music, and a pickle costume fashion show featuring alpacas, goats, bunny, little cow, and tortoise. Best costume contestants should check in by 3:30 p.m. The event runs from 1 to 7 p.m. at Main Street Food and Beverage behind the Civic Center in downtown Evansville. Also happening on Saturday, it's the opening reception at the New Harmony Gallery. The event is called Look Both Ways, 50 years at the New Harmony Gallery of Contemporary Art. The reception is from 3 to 6 p.m. Saturday at the New Harmony Gallery. Also happening on Saturday, it's Front Porch Fest 2025. This annual festival brings live music to about 50 front porches in Evansville's historic district from 3 to 8 p.m. Bonus sets are planned at some locations from 8 to 10 p.m. The Porch Fest in downtown Evansville is free. Looking ahead to Sunday now, we have the Rally for Kindness at Westside Library Park. This event, organized by Bright Evansville, is from 2 to 5 p.m. at the park on West Franklin Street. You'll find representatives from organizations across the city. The event also features food, live music, poetry, and more. That's the Rally for Kindness at the Westside Library Park on Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. If you have an event you'd like us to share here on the Weekend Notebook, send it to me. That's J. Gibson, the letter J, Gibson, at WNIN.org, and we'll do our best to get it on the Weekend Notebook. That's going to wrap up this week's Friday Wrap. I'd like to thank all of our guests, Tom Langhorn of the Evansville Courier and Press. Thanks also to our own Tim Jagielo. A big thanks to Kenton McDonald and WEHT's Shelley Kirk. Also, a big thanks to Jevin Redmond for not only joining us for the sports chat, but for engineering today's program. Thanks to Mariah Winnie for social media support here at WNIN. Thanks also to Indiana Public Broadcasting Stations, and of course, a big thanks to listeners like you. This is 88.3 WNIN FM, Evansville, Henderson, and Owensboro. With your support, we're building a better tri-state together. I'm John Gibson. Have a great weekend, and for this Friday, that's a wrap.